it's very difficult as a teenager to be different. I've seen kids be really compassionate, you know, in times that, like, when I went to school, you would never have seen that, you know, kind of behavior. Like, if someone had, I see how some of my students treat other kids, and I'm like, wow, if that kid had treated me that way when I was in grade 7 or 8, like, that would have had a massive impact. Little bit of cheese. Yeah, you can do that now. Break it all up. Another plate. So guys, I promise you it's good. Yeah. Many people, when they associate cerebral palsy, they kind of associate that person with, you know, the canes or the wheelchair. And they don't associate it necessarily as much with people that are walking, you know, and they don't have any sort of devices helping them.
I'm Daniel Vanson. I'm a high school teacher at a local school here in Pierrefonds, PCHS. And I also started a social media page called A Canadian's Cooking, which is a place where I sort of share my passion for cooking with others.
Like this. What's gonna happen?
I have spastic cerebral palsy, so that basically means that it puts my muscles into spasm sort of randomly. So sort of when you get like a knot in your muscle, imagine that, but just like happening. And then I also have something called dystonia, which is like a very, imagine just being a tight, you know, always your sort of body is like tightening, that's sort of mine. I was pretty much diagnosed very, very young. It predominantly affects my legs and my hands, but it's also in my back or in different areas. I had my feet pointing down, so I was a toe walker. That's normally a telltale sign that it could be cerebral palsy. Also the fact that I was so premature.
As I got older and I had to do a lot of that hand-driven OT, I always had hand problems. I did a lot of typing and everything, but then with those injuries, it was a lot more present because I needed to learn how to basically use my right hand again. Luckily, I'm a lefty, but it's still something that I had to learn to use. And then at that point, what happens is you have the need to do a lot of OT therapy, a lot of physiotherapy, and it's boring. And it's the same repetition, you know, move your finger like this, move your finger like that, move your finger like that, and that's really, really boring. I didn't enjoy it. I did it because I had to. But then you need to sort of continue on almost the rest of your life, and you need to stay limber. I need to make sure my hands stay limber. What cooking really did was it sort of gave me an outlet to do the physio and OT that maybe I needed to do, but in a way that was a little bit different and allowed my hands to really move, which really does keep them less tight. There's been moments back when I was in school where, you know, a phys ed teacher might say a comment like, oh, no, you can do this. And it's like, no, I can't. You know, just because it looks like I can, just because I do play sports, and all that I play sports in the way that I know that I can play them, and that's why I make adjustments. You know, it's really something I didn't want to admit. I was bullied several times because of that. Not necessarily because people knew I had CP, but there was obviously things that were different, like kicking me in the back of the legs, making me fall down, whereas other kids wouldn't. You know, childish behavior at the end of the day, and let's be honest, that was okay. You know, in the 90s, people, it was never okay, but it wasn't looked at as something that was like not okay. Today, it would be probably taken a little bit more seriously. All right. At the end of the day, you know, when you're cooking, you have to do what's good for you. Specifically, you see a lot of that actually in what we call the bear paw, where the thumb is really supposed to be back, but my thumb can't. Like, it would cause too many spasms in my hand, so I kind of put my thumb a little in and inside. But I'm aware of that, so it's kind of one of those things, you know, people make adjustments, and I think that's normal. But it wouldn't, if you looked at like my food videos on my page or something, one or two people might notice like, oh, that doesn't look technically correct, you know, and it technically isn't, but it works for me. Most people will be fully back like this, with their thumb fully behind. That will cause spasticity for me, so mine kind of rests like this, but I have to be aware, because if I go too far this way, I'm going to slice my finger. So it's just sort of more of a resting point for me.
there's a meme always where it shows like there's very few things in my life that can calm me down, and I think a hug from my wife or my kids is one of them, and the other one that sort of blocks out all the noise is the kitchen. So as loud as this may seem and be right now, for me it's like the calmest environment I can be in. And it brings serenity to my life, honestly, in that way. And hearing a few of them high-fiving, clapping, laughing, that brings you joy, and that's what makes you happy.
Butter chicken's very good.
Hey,
Let's go.
butter chicken's very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Let's go.
Good job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
I was always part of the cooking programs, but I fully took over that cooking program last year. And when I did that first event, I asked for volunteers, and I got a pretty decent amount still. Like, I had enough. But this year when I did it, I had to turn kids. First I took double the amount of volunteers and we did double the amount of food, but I had to turn kids away. Not because I didn't want it, but there's no more space. You could do the next one. And I think that I take a lot of pride in that as a teacher.
Yeah, take that station for them. All right, I think we're going to have to close up now. We're going to see who Max is in. Yeah, that's fine. It was 4 per No, you better only be 4. If you're too late, that's it. I'll let some people be 5. Make sure that grease is going to come out of the pan, eh? Hot pan, you say, thank you.
One of the first messages I give all my students is I believe in respect in my classroom, and that means that I need to show respect to you first, and then you need to also reciprocate that. I don't expect you just to respect me because I'm an adult. And when you see that kind of respect being given back to you, when you ask for someone, can you spend, those kids stayed from 2:30 to 9. Are you willing to volunteer all that time? And it's not even a question. You have a whole list of people that want to come help you. It's a feeling that you're making a difference, and it's a feeling that you've had an impact somewhere. And that's why teachers teach. That's why I teach, why I coach, why I, do a plethora of other things just to be the teacher for cooking. When you get that reward back at the end, it's a huge gain.
Boys, wants their group picture? You good with that?
It's the little things like my oma. There's a salad dressing I make, and I actually teach it to all my students. I could make that, smell that, and whenever I eat the salad dressing, I get a little emotional. Because it immediately makes me think of that. That's what I mean. I think where food and family has such a role, and it's actually one of the reasons why I built my page was, I wanted my son to be able to go back to something one day. Let's say something happens, God forbid, knock on wood, he'll have this sort of bank of, everything that I've cooked and this and that he can, if he never wants to do it, he might never want to do it. Maybe his grandkids, maybe my daughter, whoever it is. And I think that travels from generation to generation to generation. So there's certain things that I know my grandma taught my mom taught me, and I'm going to teach my son and my daughter, and they'll maybe teach their kids.
Onions, mushrooms, everything's there, okay? Beautiful.
Having that youthful look at life sometimes, it helps you, because it helps me. I feel really jammed up, and then one of my students just gives me a giggle or gives me a laugh, or you have a good 5 minutes with a kid, and it sort of changes your perspective. So I think that's probably where I would say the kids teach you perspective a lot as an adult, and they sort of bring you in check every once in a while.
How is it? Is it good? So now do you see just buying a few ingredients, putting them together, right, and taking care of them? It's good.
Oh, that looks really good.
Oh.
People don't always recognize, and I don't think that's only to CP. I think there's a lot of silent, special needs. ADHD is one of them. Some people on the spectrum as well, you might not immediately be able to tell, but this person could be hyperstimulated, or this person could not know how to deal with something, and just because it's not right in your face, it doesn't mean that it's not there. I was very lucky to have a mom that was very involved, in my life. And then I was very lucky when I met who I call my dad, my stepdad, who was also always available if I needed to vent a little or anything. He was always around. That's like what got me through a lot, having that relationship with my mom, having that person that I knew really believed in me. If anything, it even ironically almost somewhat stressed me out because she believed in me more than I believed in myself at times, and I felt like I had to live up to that, which was good, you know, but in the time, you know, you're like, I can't do that, but she saw something that I didn't at that time. Being a dad now, like that's who you want to be for your kids.
You need a kiss too?
My wife is one of the best people, you know, in my life. She's my rock because I'm very much a combination of both my parents. So I can be very much too laid back sometimes and too high strung at other times. And she's the one that really sort of, you know, calms me down.
I know I'm CPR certified, but I'd rather not today.
On our first date, we went out for Rockaberries. We went out for food. How apropos. We shared pie, we went for a walk in Centennial Park, and I remember texting my girlfriends, this is where I am. If he murders me, you'll know where I am. And really, we were inseparable from the beginning. I had like just put up my Christmas lights in my apartment, and that was the first time we said I love you.
Last time, big tickle. 1, 2, 3. There you go.
My kids are just, you know, they're the lights of my life. I'll definitely say they're a lot of work, but I love it. And my son in particular, some of the best moments I have now is you can see it on my page sometimes, is we were starting to cook together, you know, and that's a really fun sort of experience for me to be able to share that passion with him, which is a wonderful thing to be able to share.
Especially when it came to my social media, whenever I've done something, if I can affect one person in a positive way, then that means I've done something positive in the world. The person that wrote to me directly, and I'll never forget it, they wrote to me saying like, thank you so much, my son has CP, and your story was really like an eye-opener for me. Like, and it was really nice to see someone successful. And I remember showing my wife, and you know, I was like, man, I wish I saw my story.
Are you gonna give any to Tristan? Cookie. That's already better than what you were doing before. So, half of you guys couldn't even hold a knife 2 weeks ago, huh?